This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Today we have a Bosch dishwasher that's overfilling. So it actually fills with water even when it's unplugged, even when the power is not on. And that's due to a faulty fill valve. This one's unfortunately only about 3 years old, and this external fill valve has already failed. So I've got the power off, I've got the water turned off, and I'm going to be removing this under the sink fill valve. Most Bosch dishwashers have the fill valve connected to the machine over by the kick panel. But this one is copying the Miele style and has an external one that's located under the sink, which actually makes it very easy to repair because it's so accessible. But these tend to fail faster for some reason. So we're going to be taking this one out and replacing it with just the generic fill valve, which is a little bit easier than doing an exact replacement of this existing valve, which would take more disassembly. So we've got it disconnected. We're going to pry the plastic cover off of it with a standard head screwdriver, and then we're going to pull back on this plastic sheath exposing the hose. I'm going to use a pair of vice grips to kind of hold that all into position so I can do the work. So the vice grips, I'll get them not all the way tight, but pretty close to being fully tight, and I'll use that to clamp down to get that out of the way. So again, here's what it looks like before you take it out. So I'm right now putting spade connectors onto the wire. I've cut the wire, pulled it back, and I'm getting it ready for this new fill valve. This is just kind of a generic GE fill valve. These cost about 25 to 40 bucks online, and they work great. Also with it though, I got a new hose line, and it also comes with a brass elbow that helps me connect the new fill valve. Here's the brass elbow. On one side of it, the bigger side of it, I'm putting on this Teflon tape to make a nice watertight connection. On the other side, you don't need it because it's called a compression fitting. But this is the side that connects to the new fill valve, so you do need this tape. So here we're pulled the sheath back, and we're cutting the hose with a pair of diagonal pliers called dikes. And you can use a razor blade would do it too, but we're cutting it back probably about 4 inches back from the end, and that's where we're going to connect up the new fill valve. So just using these diagonal pliers to snip through a little bit at a time until we've cut that hose. Yeah, it's interesting. This is almost the exact same repair that's done on the Miele dishwasher. Very similar. So now we're cutting the wire coating so that it ends up being the two wires. We have the neutral side and the hot side, and that's where we're going to connect on those spade connectors. You can get those spade connectors at a hardware store. They're pretty cheap, probably about 5 cents each. And then you need a crimping tool to crimp them onto the new wire. And that's what brings power to the new fill valve. So we're just crimping those on and just getting it all ready to attach the new fill valve. These new fill valves, the generic ones, seem to last a long time as compared to the ones that come with the Bosch dishwasher. So now I'm screwing the brass elbow into the new fill valve, and I want to get it in there nice and tight, so I'm going to use some pliers or a wrench to tighten it up. And then I'll attach the right here I'm taking the old spring clamp off of the old hose because I'll reuse that. I'll use that to help make a nice connection with the hose onto the new fill valve. Here's the spring clamp, so I'll put that on the hose, and then I can push the new fill valve onto the hose. You may need to use a little bit of lubricant like hand soap to make it easier for that tube to go on. Get it on there nice and tight, and then you're going to put the spring clamp over that to make it watertight. Once you've done that, you're almost done. Then you want to take the new spade connectors and put them onto the fill valve, because that's what's going to bring power to the fill valve. It brings 110 volts and creates a really powerful magnetic field, and that lifts up on a little pin, and that lets water flow into your dishwasher. On the old one, that pin would not retract all the way. When the power was taken away, it was letting a little bit of water dribble through, and that created a flood situation. And again, though, the customer said that this happened only at the 3-year mark, which is really weird. That's very early. So we've got the hose on there nice and tight, putting the electrical spade connectors, the terminals on there, making sure those are on there tight. It's good to cover up any exposed metal on those spade connectors with electrical tape so there's no chance of it touching any metal underneath the sink. So here's the other end of the fill hose, and we're going to connect that up to the water supply here underneath the sink. We're just going to spin that on hand tight first, and then we'll make a couple of turns with a wrench. And that's a compression fitting, so it does not need the Teflon leak type tape. It just needs tightening. Once we've done that, we can plug it in and test it before we mount it against the wall. And that's just to make sure there's no leaks and everything's working. This type of fill valve comes with a bracket, and you can just use a couple of screws to mount it up against the cabinet wall. So I'm going to reach in here and I'm going to press this little breaker, and that will allow power to flow to the dishwasher. I'm going to turn on the power on the dishwasher, and then I'll press the start button, and then it should drain for a little bit, and after that it should let water come in. I just want to make sure everything's working correctly. So it's pretty easy to repair, pretty fast, inexpensive, because the part's only maybe $40 at the most. So we can hear water flowing in there, so we know that did work, and now it's okay to mount that against the back wall. I'll just use a couple of wood screws, and the bracket has holes in it already that go through the metal, and then the wood screws go into the cabinet, and that holds it in nice and secure. It's better to not have it just loose in there, but better to have it secured. And again, it is wise to cover up any exposed metal on the spade connectors. So here it is underneath the sink now. We have it secured. I'm going to push this hose down inside the cabinet a little bit more, kind of get things nice and tidy. And now when I open up the dishwasher after filling, I'm going to check the water level. It should be about up to the top of the round plastic handle, which it is. So that's a perfect amount of water. It's not overdone. It's not underdone. That looks really good. So I'm pressing the reset button now. I'm just holding it, pressing the start button for about 3 seconds. The display says 001, and what that does is it drains out all the water in there, and also it resets the computer. So if your Bosch dishwasher is ever acting weird, that's the first thing to try. Just hold that start button for about 3 to 4 seconds until the display says 001. Close the door, and what should happen is all the water should drain out and the computer will reset. So we can hear it draining. It looks good. So I hope that's been helpful to you, and you can get your Bosch dishwasher going again. Remember, this is an unusual one that has an external fill valve. Thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe when you get a chance.